Welcome to Natural Habitat Adventures Daily Dose of Nature. Let's go again, the Galapagos Islands, presented by Nat Hab's Guide Development Director and Expedition Leader, Annie Van Dinther, and Expedition Leader, Andres Vergara. It's wonderful to have you with us today. Annie, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Thank you so much, Kendall. We really appreciate all the effort and support you put into helping us pull these off. And thank you to all of you who are tuning in. It's wonderful to see you again. I did take a week off, so it's great to be back. I had an enjoyable spring break with my family, if you can call it spring break, up here in Alaska. We still have several feet of snow on the ground, but I can tell it's spring because we have many hours of daylight already. We have kind of turned that corner where we are heading towards that hours and hours of daylight during the summer, and I can't wait to tune into you and tell you more about Alaska in a few weeks. But for now, I have my good friend Andres here, and we're going to go to the Galapagos again. So for those of you who tuned in a few weeks ago, you can see kind of episode 1 of this on our website. You can see all of our past webinars there. So on episode 1, we told you all about how the Galapagos was formed and the natural history and all those things. Before we get into more of that, I want to welcome you, Andres. Thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait to go to the Galapagos again today.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you, everybody, to be with us today. We are ready to take you back to the Galapagos Islands. My name is Andres Vergara. Maybe some of you know me already. Well, here in Galapagos is the spring too. It's been raining a little bit. It's sunny, full of life, full of flowers, full of plants, and a lot of wildlife. Things are a little bit slow here in terms of working, but we are just start working in different areas, science, and taking care a little bit about the community. I'm a naturalist guide for many years already, 15 years, working with the natural habitat, family man. I used to be a boat captain, and here I am, ready to take you to the Galapagos Islands again.
And I understand that you have been doing some very cool things in the Galapagos while traveling and tourists have been low. You've been working on a really exciting research project. Before we get into the trip, can you tell us just a little bit about that?
Yes, the University of Quito and some specific institutions in England, they were collecting some money to be able to start a genetic barcode of the different species of the Galapagos Islands. So we've been working really hard. There's 300 of us collecting information, working with the gene bank and helping these scientists to try to find a way to put some barcoding into the different species of the Galapagos Island. It's been really hard. It's like going back to school, but it's really unique because we're helping science and we're learning a lot. But believe me, it's a little bit difficult.
So you have 300 guides who otherwise would be helping with tourism and working in other forms of travel, who are helping scientists right now to put a barcode match with genetic information with a whole variety of species. Is that right?
Yes, it's exactly right. Sounds really crazy, but it is because there's some species that are not known for science. So as we are kind of the labor working here, collecting data, my God, it's been really hard. It's been really hard, but it's time to do something different. And here we are working. If not, we were at home washing dishes and cooking for the family.
Very cool. So tell us, the Galapagos are 600 miles from Ecuador, and they are a series of islands. Tell us some of the basics about this map here and what is so special about the islands of the Galapagos.
Great. Fantastic. Well, as Annie already explained to us, we've been talking a little bit about the natural history of Galapagos in the first episode, but it's really important to let you know that Galapagos is 600 miles in front of Ecuador, straight at the equator line. And that's really important because it has a really nice weather. There's no way to have any storm or hurricane. It's a volcanic group of islands, more or less 18 islands, 25 islets, and 7 rocks. Is around 4,000 square miles, all the area, and the marine reserve is around 70,000 square miles. So it's a volcanic oceanic archipelago. That means that it's being born in a place that is called the Galapagos hotspot. There is active islands, there is dormant islands, and there's some other islands. All of them kind of receiving a lot of life through currents, marine currents, clouds, rain are bringing life to the Galapagos Islands. In this map, you can see the younger islands. That island that looks like a seahorse is called Isabella. Passing Isabella to the west, there is Fernandina. Those are the active islands. Eruptions occurs every year, more or less. And then you have the map of the tectonic plate that is so important, that forms and shapes all of these structures. You have the Galapagos Islands, and following to the east, you arrive to South America. That is the Nazca tectonic plate that actually is the one that pushed the Galapagos Islands towards South America. The movement of this tectonic plate is already really well known, is more or less 3 inches per year. So we're going towards South America really slowly, and that's why we have active islands like Fernandina, Isabella. We have dormant islands like Santa Cruz, where I am right now. Just to let you know, Fernandina, 500,000 years old, is the baby island. Isabella, 1 million years old, still active. Santa Cruz and the group of islands around here, 2 million years old, and the older islands, San Cristobal and Española, 5 million years old. This map is fantastic because you see the different reach, the different tectonic plates around this area. They're shaping basically the shape of America. You have the Cocos Ridge going to Central America that connected Americas more or less 10 million years ago. And then you have the Pacific plate going to the west. All of that transformed the Galapagos Island in a young archipelago full of lava. This lava is really unique. It's called the basalt. The basalt is a rock that actually is not explosive, is oceanic, and all of that allows our visitors, the way you can see in this great picture, to walk in this young lava flow. Actually, this excursion here by these natural habitat explorers occurs in an island called Fernandina, and that lava flow is no older than maybe 200 years or maybe less. So it's quite unique because all of these volcanoes that is not explosive allows our visitors to enjoy these unique islands without feeling too stressed about any volcanic eruption.
So that's a little bit as you go to different islands, you're experiencing a different geological time period because of the different spreading of that tectonic plate. Is that correct?
Exactly, that's completely correct. You have the young island with a really young lava flow. You have the older islands with the lava flows covered with vegetation. You have actually island like San Cristobal with a freshwater lagoon on top of the island. And through time, life arrives into the Galapagos Islands, and this life evolves, this life transforms, and this is the life that becomes an endemic species. So all of that depends on the age of the island, of the marine currents, and the altitude of the island. That's another fantastic island called Bartolome. If you come with us, you're going to visit Bartolome Island. That is a volcano that has more or less 1.5 million years old. And in front of Bartolome Island, you have this black lava flow there. That is Sullivan Bay. Actually, Bartolome Island and Sullivan Bay, they were named by Captain Fitzroy from the expedition of the Beagle in honor of the first mate, Bartholomew Sullivan, who mapped that area in 1835. So that black lava flow is really young, less than 200 years old. That is the island of Bartolome with a world-famous pinnacle rock.
So these eruptions that are forming this new land are happening, but it's still safe to go, and it's still safe to explore the islands. And so that's one of the dynamics, but we also have to fully understand the ocean currents that are happening. We can't fully get a grasp on what's going on with the animals and the biodiversity in the Galapagos if we don't understand the ocean currents. Is that right?
Exactly. The volcanism and the volcanic erosion is what create the islands. These islands were born on fire from the mantle of the earth. And then imagine they were just pieces of big volcanoes with all of the different structures, but they were naked without any life. Quite similar to the Hawaiian archipelago. What happened next? Through time, millions of years, currents arrived to this part of the world, especially to this Galapagos archipelago that is just in front of Ecuador and is crossed by the Ecuador line. So we have three major currents that arrive to the Galapagos Islands depending on the season. At this time of the year is the arrival of the Panama current. The conditions are changing, the weather is getting warm. This gentle warm current is coming from North America, from the Hawaiian Islands, passing California, then getting into the tropics, and then they start getting warm. And when the warm currents arrive to the Galapagos Islands from the north, that brings rain, that brings humidity, that brings flowers and all of that, and yes, that brings insects too. So that is part of the dynamic at this time of the year. But there's another current called the Humboldt current or Peruvian current that comes from the South America territory, from really deep down into the Chilean territory. That current brings billions of fish to the Galapagos Islands. These fish, they don't stop here. They're going all the way towards the West Pacific. But what happened? There's a really important current in Galapagos that is called the Cromwell current or Ecuadorian underwater country current that comes from the west, and it's really deep. When this current hits the vertical walls of the beginning of the Galapagos submarine ridge, brings nutrients all the way up to the surface and irrigate Galapagos with cold water. That's a picture that represents all of that. Billions of little creatures like plankton, phytoplankton, and the blooming of the algae produce life. And that is the secret of the Galapagos Islands. All of these currents mix around these volcanoes, so some of them are quite deep, other ones are quite shallow, and that brings all of the life that makes so unique these islands.
And that's what's so incredible is that we have this cold water right there on the equator. I mean, unlike other places where you'd expect to have that warm water, and cold water allows more oxygen to be available, bioavailable for animals, which means you're going to have a really different marine ecosystem when you have that cold water. So it does create a whole different kind of a place than you would normally expect to have on the equator. And because of that, we get different fish than we would have in other places. And in the first episode, we talked a lot about some of the animals that we're going to see here. And this one is incredibly special, right?
Yes, no, this is a fantastic fish that comes from the tropical region of the Pacific Ocean. It's called the parrotfish, and it's the one who feeds in the algae on top of the coral. And when he poops, he creates these tiny little particles of white sand, and through millions of years, that area is transformed in a white sand beach. Not only this fish, but as you can imagine, sea lions coming from the north hemisphere. We're going to talk a lot about sea lions quite soon. Penguins coming from the south hemisphere, and all of these creatures that are so unique. Iguanas that evolved, and right now you can see them as marine and land iguanas. All of that happens in Galapagos because of these unique currents.
And these sea lions, I cannot get enough of them, Andres. Now,
yes,
I think we're having a little bit of a technical difficulty here. I'm going to keep going talking about a sea lion here and hope that it catches up in a minute. This
maybe
sea
you
lion,
can hear me right now?
Are you there, Andres?
I'm here. You can hear me?
I can hear you. It might be better if you keep your camera off and we just listen to you because you are freezing a little bit. So yeah, we'll keep your camera off and we'll just listen. We see the sea lion here we know it's a sea lion because it has those external ear flaps. That's one of the clues that we're not looking at a seal, right? And it is just so incredibly adorable. Those big eyes, they just say, please take me home. But they're much more complex than just a cute thing on the beach. There's a lot going on here. Tell us about the sea lion.
Well, what is so unique about the Galapagos sea lions and the different creatures that live in Galapagos is that actually they don't have any land predator. When all of these different creatures arrived to Galapagos, was not possible for a big cat or maybe a dog or maybe a wolf to arrive from South America or maybe from North America. Mammals are really reduced numbers in Galapagos. We have 2 species of sea lions, we have 2 species of rats, we have 2 species of bats. So having no land predator, especially sea lions, they evolve with these conditions where actually they're really friendly and they are no shy at all. Actually, sometimes they can get really, really close to our visitors. We're going to see some of pictures that are just fantastic with this condition of the sea lions. And what controls life here is not the top predators, because the top predator of the island is the Galapagos hawk. But what controls the life? It is the marine currents, the marine events. You have the Niño event with warm water, less food. That means mortality. That means evolution, natural selection. And then you have the cold water with a lot of food, a lot of nutrients. And that moment, everybody starts to getting ready for mating. That's another fantastic example. There you have the marine iguana, the only sea-going lizard of the world. And on top of the marine iguana, that is a unique, kind of shy herbivore that feeds in algae. You have a long relative from this creature that is a lava lizard. The lava lizard is a carnivore and it feeds in insects and dead skin of animals and everything that is already dead. So then you have 2 different examples of the adaptation of the Galapagos Islands. The big creatures are herbivores, they are shy, they're not aggressive, and the tiny little lava lizard is the one who is ready to take anything. This picture represents one of the fantastic structures of the geology of the island. We're going to see that if you come and join us in one of our expeditions. It's called the Kicker Rock. Captain Robert Fitzroy from the expedition of the Beagle saw this, and for him, this was quite similar to a shoe, so he named Kicker Rock. Fantastic structure, is an eroded cone. Actually, the name is the Tough Cone, and you can imagine life there. The sharks, there is a lot of fish, sea lions, boobies, they nest there. If you come with us, we want to make you make a little tour around that area. It's just fantastic.
So, Andres, when we come to visit you in the Galapagos, there are so many things that people are so excited to see. And of course, the Galapagos is famous for this kind of summary we have here, right? These endemic species, the reptiles, the mammals, the insects, the birds, and the plants. But it's also famous for the national park. And the national park that was established in 1959 is a place that we do bring our guests to. Can you tell us a little bit about the national park?
Yes, dear Annie. The Galapagos National Park for us is everything. Is our kind of, I don't want to exaggerate, but is a kind of part of the core of our life. It's been established in 1959 by young scientists from Ecuador, from England, from United States, from Belgium. All of them, they were ready to kind of study this territory and to recover this area. It starts with the eradication of introduced mammals. Maybe for those who were with us during the first episode of this journey in Galapagos, you know that there were many introduced species arriving to Galapagos during the time of the whalers in the 1800s. Imagine that there were 100,000 goats in Galapagos destroying the ecosystem. So the first activity was to eradicate these introduced species. A lot of goats stood during that time at the kitchen of the different homes. And then the next step was to restore the endemic ecosystem, especially starting with the giant tortoises, because giant tortoises are the most emblematic creatures, not only because they're beautiful and they can live for a long time, but because they have a symbiotic relation with the ecosystem. They eat plants, and when these plants, cactus and different herbs and different weeds, they pass through the genetic system of these tortoises. Actually, they pass through the digestion system. They germinate faster. And at the Charles Darwin Research Station, and you can see, like I see you in maybe a few years ago visiting our Charles Darwin Research Foundation, you can visit them. And this is a classic picture because right now nobody can get there. They're more isolated. But that gives an example about how big they are and how kind of tame they are. Right now you can tell us about this picture from part of your experience in Galapagos.
So this is a picture from, I was in the Galapagos about 20 years ago now, and it used to be that you could get this close. I was visiting the Charles Darwin Research Center at the Galapagos National Park, and this was a thing that happened then. But like many places, we've learned that, you know, getting this close to animals is not necessarily in the best interest of the animal or even the research and even what we understand as humans for how we interact with them. So Andres has since told me that this isn't a picture that we can now get with the tortoises if we were to go visit. But when I went there, I was helping to guide a trip with World Wildlife Fund and Natural Habitat, and it was one of the most incredible experiences of my entire life in my guiding career. And it's been so interesting to learn about the changes that have happened, both in the successes, the areas where they have seen animals come back, and then the changes for what we've learned for how to interact with animals and where to be more careful and more conservative in how we interact. But certainly I do cherish the moments that I had there, and will certainly cherish when I get to go back and hopefully bring my family to have some similar moments in the area. Hopefully ones that we know are safe and good for the animals as well. It would be such an honor to be able to bring a group there to see this incredible place. So for you, Andres, guiding in the Galapagos, I imagine it must be just such an honor. To me, when I was there, I was completely struck, and we talked about this earlier as we were working on this presentation, the hospitality of the people in the Galapagos. I have not found any other place. I mean, people are kind and loving all over, but the generosity and the hospitality of the people in the Galapagos to me was outstanding and incomparable. So I'm just curious, for you guiding there, you must have an enormous amount of pride in the place that you call home.
Yeah, dear Annie, thank you very much for your words. And that is something that impresses all of our guests. All of our guests are really impressed about our community. And I'm not lying if I tell you, you witnessed that, and many of our friends are with us. Maybe they are listening to this, or maybe they're already with us. There's no pickpockets in our community. There's no thieves. There's no homeless people. And that makes the community really active and really proud. We are living through the rules of the Galapagos National Park, and that helps everybody to be kind of proud of our lifestyle. And there's the different people from different regions of Ecuador. There is people from the highlands and from the coast. There is the Afro-Ecuadorians and all of them, but everybody kind of follow this structure. The Galapagos Islands, it is a province of Ecuador under a special law. That special law is called the Special Law of the Galapagos Archipelago, that creates a unique control to be able to protect the Galapagos National Park. And that is really important for us to be able to keep it like that. There's some special rules that everybody kind of follow. Those are no suggested rules. It's something that you need to follow. At the beginning, it could be a little bit shocking, but it's the way it is. Kind of, we always stay 2 feet from the wildlife. We don't touch the animals. We walk into trails, and we don't go out of the trail. We're not bringing any food to the islands. We can't collect any sand or rocks. Those are nice and simple rules that makes everything so different. And right now, let's go to the adventure. I can see a picture of this beautiful, yeah, the Nemo tree, our boat, yes. This is where we're gonna take you, if you come with us, to this specific adventure that is more active. And the Nemo tree, we are doing some kayak trips that involve kayaking, a lot of kayaking, not difficult, but kind of 1 hour, 30 minutes every day. That's really nice. But we are doing the same amount of wildlife excursions and a lot of snorkeling. Snorkeling is really important in Galapagos because it's really nice, it's safe, and there's a lot of wildlife. So the trip that we're going to take you right now is more active trip. But please do not worry. We have visitors from all kind of range of age. And the only thing that you need is to be ready to have fun, to enjoy it, and there's not a lot of downtime. There's not a lot of time to get kind of bored. This is the place to get really active. But important thing, there's always time for siesta. There's always time for siesta after lunch. So that's quite great. And we go to sleep early.
That sounds like a great way. And I know that there you guys take working together incredibly seriously. And I know that you already have places that you are working hard to make sure you've got COVID protocol all set. And I know that you've already been vaccinated and that many people on the island have already been vaccinated. And that's a really big push there with Ecuador and with the island. So we're really excited to hear about that. And I can't wait to know that it's just going to be safe for people to come and visit you, and that the people that are there in the Galapagos are going to be safe as well.
Yes, thank you very much for that comment. And this picture reminds me 2 important things. One of them is that maybe for our friends who want to visit Galapagos and they're checking other options, excellent. But I really believe that this option with us is the best, not only because it's natural habitat that is fantastic, but we are always having 2 guides, 2 naturalist guides with us. In this case, we have a picture with me and my friend Veronica that we take care of the group. But that's really fantastic. The Galapagos National Park allows 1 naturalist guide to take care of 16 guests. That is a kind of a mandatory. But Natural Habitat takes 2 guides for that group. That means that it's more one-on-one kind of information and more safety. One moment, one part of the group was to just taking a relaxed time at the beach, you stay with one of us. The other part of the group was to do a deeper snorkeling, you go with the other guy. So that is really, really important, and we are really proud of that kind of energy that Natural Habitat is putting into the trips. And yes, we always take care of, right now with this COVID condition that is really sad, we are taking care of everything with the mask. But yeah, you're right. For the Galapagos, no, for the Ecuadorian government, Galapagos is one of the most important areas, and the governmental policy requires that all of the citizens of Galapagos will need to be vaccinated. Actually, doctors, nurses, firemen, all of the people who was ready in the first line, they were vaccinated. Of adults passing 60 years old, they're already vaccinated. And then guides, naturalist guides, during this process, part of us were already being vaccinated, including me. So I'm really happy that I'm already vaccinated the first dose, no, because there's 2 different doses that you need to have. So in 20 more days, we're going to have the second. Okay,
fantastic.
Very good. Thank you very much. Really happy because of that. And important information about our trip right now, just to let you know, to all of our friends. In Galapagos, if you want to visit the Galapagos Islands, and if you want to visit all of the islands, you're going to need 2 weeks. Kind of difficult to have 2 weeks of vacations, but if you choose to visit us 1 week, all of the boats, they're going to take you to one specific location. In this case, from Santa Cruz Island towards the southeast. That is one trip. Then the next week, that same boat goes from Santa Cruz Island towards the southwest. That means Isabella, Fernandina, and the younger islands. That's how the Galapagos National Park kind of regulate the itinerary for two reasons. One, protecting the wildlife, no overcrowded the visitor sites, and second, to give the visitors a unique experience. You're going to feel that you are alone and only you with your friends, with your group in one of the islands, and that is one of the most fantastic feelings in terms of travel. So that is really important in terms of how the Galapagos archipelago and how the Galapagos National Park organize the trips. If you visit us in this trip that is kayaking and a lot of snorkeling, we are going to take you, and in this moment, we are going to take you to the southeast part of the Galapagos Island. That is fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. If you, because of your time or your vacation and the different aspects of your life, decide to go to the west part, is fantastic too. But for that, you need another kind of visit to the Galapagos Islands, another webinar. Right now, this moment, we're going to focus in the islands that the Nemo tree, that beautiful sailing boat, is going to take you if you visit us to this experience.
Okay, let's talk about the animals that we're going to see when we go on this trip. And I think the frigate bird has got to be one of the most incredible of these animals with that bright red pouch. Tell us about this bird.
Okay, that is the first island that you visit. First, we'll take you to a little kind of a training with the kayaks. That way you know that we know that you're ready and you feel comfortable. And then in the afternoon, we take you to the island of North Simo, where you're gonna have the first encounter of two species of frigate birds. Frigate birds are considered the pirates of the air. They attack other birds to steal food. They are not waterproof birds. That means that the feathers can't get wet. If they get wet, they get too heavy and they're not going to be able to fly away. So they are adapted to steal food from other birds. That's why they have this long and curvy beak. And then the males during this time of the year, that happens almost all year round, but this time, especially this time, is the main attraction in the island of North Seymour and a few more destinations where the male frigate birds, they're sitting on top of the bushes, they inflate this sac that is called a gular sac, and they start singing to attract the females. And the same destination, you can find land iguanas. They're just fantastic. Different from marine iguanas. Marine iguanas are sea-going lizards. They dive and they eat algae. Land iguanas, they eat plants. They eat cactus, they eat flowers, and actually, like marine iguanas, they're really, really naive and tame creatures. They're not aggressive at all. If you see this picture, you can feel that, oh my God, what a creature that is really gentle and moves along. The only time when he's aggressive and attacks other iguanas, as you can imagine, is during mating season. And that occurs during this specific time of the year. Because having a lot of rain, there's a lot of flowers, there's a lot of fruits, and there you go. This is one of our travelers having a close encounter with young sea lions. Sometimes young sea lions, they get a little bit too close, but at that moment, as you can see, you need to be ready to deal with that. And I think it's you, Annie. Why don't you tell us about this for a few seconds, or tell us what happened in that moment?
This sea lion kept following me on the beach. And the guide kept saying, oh, this sea lion is maybe looking for someone to spend some time with, and don't worry, it'll go away. Well, it would not go away. And finally, I just had to sit down with the sea lion. And I didn't reach out to the animal at all, but it wanted to play with my camera strap, and I swear it wanted to come home with me. I'm quite certain that it did. I think it was like that "Are You My Mother" kind of, remember that book? I don't know if that's one that you have, but for us, there's this book, I think it's a Dr. Seuss book, I'm not sure, where it's like this, little bird goes around to all these different creatures saying, "Are you my mother?" And I felt like that was this moment with this sea lion. And it was just so incredibly precious, because it just was really looking for, someone to play with kind of thing. But it was also a little bit sad because it seemed like it really needed to be with a sea lion and not a human. But I know that's the natural course of things with, with these animals. And certainly it's quite common to find sort of a, pup that's looking for someone to spend some time with. Often it's when their mom will go out to sea to get some food. They'll finally get brave enough to go get some food, and then they'll come back and be there. But while mom is out getting some food, the young one is going to be on the beach, like, hey, who am I going to get some attention from while mom is distracted? And that was definitely the moment that I had on the beach with that young one. It was quite a special moment for sure. I've always wondered if I should send the picture into Canon, but of course the words were upside down. So.
Oh my God! Oh, what a moment!
Those are the moments, though, right, that we have when we travel and we get to see these phenomenal animals. And I think that that's what, for our guests as well, we hope that we can get them to these places, and that maybe they will have, it doesn't necessarily mean being so close up like that. It could even just be a sunset or watching this incredible lizard scoot across the sand like this. It could be, seeing some other, even just plants, right? Or walking across that lava, whatever it is. I think especially after we've been sitting in our homes and waiting to travel, it really is phenomenal to think about getting to go back to these islands and experience this. So tell us about this marine iguana.
Yes, well, those two pictures, the one with the baby sea lion and this one, they belong to the island of San Cristobal. That is the next destination. That is next day. We take you to the island of San Cristobal, where you're going to experience a close encounter with sea lions. Actually, there's a little islet called Sea Lion Islet where we take you. And then in the afternoon, relaxing moment at the beach in this specific location where marine iguanas are coming and going, and it's not rare to see them moving. They're coming to the beach, to this beautiful white sand beach, really ancient island, 5 million years old, where the iguanas are basking, where the iguanas are coming to get warm. When they get warm, they can digest the algae, and the metabolism help them to absorb all of the energy from the different algae that they eat. So it's a fantastic feeling, and once again, the most crazy feeling that you have is because this animal is not aggressive at all. It's just a tame creature that is coming, and he will observe you like another living being and then moves away. That is indeed a fantastic little beach, not little, but beautiful beach called Finger Hill. And historically, it's really important because this was the first destination where young Charles Darwin and Captain Fitzroy disembarked in 1835, September 1835, on the search of wildlife, collecting data from the Galapagos Islands. Actually, Captain Fitzroy, Robert Fitzroy, he's the one who named this area as Finger Hill because of that little point there in top of this great little stroke. So this place is one of the first kayak activities that we're doing. We're going to kayak along this specific wall full of life and a lot of geological structures there that make this kayak in the afternoon so special.
It looks amazing, and how incredible to think that you're standing on the beach that Charles Darwin first embarked on. I mean, that is, as a naturalist, that is certainly a phenomenal place to be standing, that's for sure. And oh, the famous blue-footed booby, just such a beautiful color blue and just such a famous bird. I think that we need to make up a very special dance just for this bird. Tell us about the blue-footed booby, Andres.
Blue-footed boobies are, of course, one of the most famous creatures in Galapagos. Important thing, if you want to see blue-footed boobies, yes, you can go to different locations. The blue-footed boobies exist from Baja California all the way to northern Peru. But the most important colonies of blue-footed boobies is located in Galapagos. They nest in top of the ground, the way you can see. The color of the feet when they're adults are always blue, but there's a difference. When they're eating a lot, they are absorbing actually collagen and carotene from the scales of the fish, and that product is what makes the feed looking blue. Actually, it's a reflection of the light into the feed that makes this a kind of bright blue color. When they're eating a lot, their feet turning baby blue. This one has more or less kind of no so baby blue. Why? Because when they're laying eggs, or when maybe they're feeding the young ones, the feet turn more dark blue because they're not eating a lot. So the color is reduced. And that's really important because when the female looks to the feet of the male, and the feet of the male are baby blue, like the sky, at that moment that female gets attracted by that male blue-footed booby. So these blue-footed boobies need to have beautiful blue feet, and they need to make a really complex dance, the dance of the booby, whistling and making long steps at another position that is called the booby dance, or sky pointing, and doing all of these movements, he attracts the female. But you know what happened? There's always, and the neighbor, there's always a few males dancing for that female. So that female, she doesn't know who to choose, but there's always the winner. There's always the winner, there's always the romantic moment, and then that couple of boobies, they're gonna stay together, maybe for more than 1, 2, 3 seasons, depending on the amount of food. The female lays 2 to 3 eggs. Sadly, not all of the chicks are going to survive because, of course, that depends of the amount of food. That depends of the currents and the amount of little fish, sardines, salimas, that nature is going to provide for them. But yes, if you come to visit us, plenty of blue-footed boobies are going to be here waiting for our visitors.
That's so cool that if they're getting enough food, if they're doing a good job providing food, then they have the color feet that attracts the female. Do I have it right?
You have it completely right. If the male has dark blue feet, even if he dances, even if he has a really nice territory for him to nest, the female is not going to land it, is not going to get attracted. You're right. And that's
that
really
is
rare.
such a great insurance policy for the females.
Sure, the same with frigate birds, the same, I missed that point. But of course, when the male frigate bird, we saw at the picture, pump air into the gular sac, that is what attracts the female. So the female needs to observe all of these bright colors. In terms of frigate bird, the red gular sac. In terms of the blue-footed booby, the beautiful blue feet of the male booby.
Very cool. Look at these gorgeous feet. It's wonderful. Okay,
And that
we
is
got
actually,
more of these
and that is just the second day, because right now we're just in the island of San Cristobal.
To me, what's so incredible about the marine iguana is that these are ectotherms, right? So they are gathering their heat from the sun, and they're not going to make this warm temperature endotherms inside like we do. And so to think that they have to go out and gather that heat on their own, it's just an amazing difference to me. It's an adaptation that I will always be impressed with when I watch them literally laying there gathering the heat. Sometimes I think I might be an endotherm though, because I do love laying out in the sun and gathering warmth.
Yeah, my God, those creatures are really unique. They call them the living proof of evolution. From one ancestor, green iguanas, they evolved as right now they consider more than 10 subspecies, and they need to bask in a really heavy tropical sun to be able to absorb all of that energy, especially get warm to digest the food, to digest the algae. And not only that, they need to lick poop of birds and sea lions to add some bacteria into the digestion system, because that bacteria is the creature who is going to actually destroy the enzymes of the algae to be able to add nutrients to the marine iguana. And that bacteria needs to get warm. So all of that is a complex symbiotic relation that occurs into these fantastic creatures. Well, there's many, many other secrets marine iguanas that if I tell you, some people think that, oh my God, this is crazy, but it's more fantastic when you read in the book, kind of the shrinking marine iguanas of the Galapagos Islands. Right now, there's some discoveries of the marine iguanas being reducing their bones during lack of food. Before dying, they consume the bones, and then when food comes, they start increasing their bones, and that is just crazy. And those are discoveries that coming through decades of investigation from scientists that have been here more than 40, 50 years in the field. And all of that depends on us too, because as you know, natural habitat support and has a connection with the World Wildlife Fund, and World Wildlife Fund support these scientists. So everything is connected. Everything is all of us we're working in that objective. More knowledge about our ecosystem.
Wow. So some people go to the Galapagos just to see the albatross.
Oh, yes, the wave albatross. In Española Island, different. Be careful. If you want to see the wave albatross, you need to be sure that you are with us in a trip that takes you to Española Island, and more than that, that you choose your trip from especially beginning of May all the way to December, because during that time is when the wave albatross from the Galapagos Islands are coming to the island of Española to mate, to lay the eggs, to reproduce, to dance, and then arriving in May, these birds, they have 6 months to practice all of that, because in December, all of them, adults, juveniles, young ones, little juveniles are being hatched in the month of June. They're flying away, and they're going and they're floating for 6 months in the Pacific Ocean. Imagine around the territory of the Peruvian, South Peruvian waters for 6 months. And then they come back to the Galapagos Islands. So this is a unique bird that is oceanic, but actually nests only in Española Island.
Okay, so let me just repeat that a second. If people want to see the albatross, they need to make sure. I get this question so often when people are going on different trips with me and they want to go to the Galapagos. I would say this is one of the most common questions I get. They need to go May through December, and they need to make sure that their trip goes to Española, correct?
Exactly.
Okay. We got
the only nest in Española. Sometimes they stay a little bit longer than December. Sometimes they stay all the way to maybe January. But if you want to kind of really feel the action of them, May, June, July, August, that's when everything happens. So yeah.
Okay.
The way
and so to be safe, they want to make sure it happens in the middle of that time. And then also on Española, they're going to see the Nazca booby, which used to be called the masked booby, but has been changed because of our gain in understanding of genetic information, that this is actually a different bird than what you can see in other places. And so it's important to note that that has been named differently because of that genetic information, correct?
More than correct. Thank you very much. Yes. The common name 20 years ago, it was the masked booby. But then scientists, especially Dr. Steve Anderson, who is the leader in studies of boobies, gannets, and albatross, he started studying the genetic information of these birds that nest in Galapagos, and he arrived to the conclusion with his team that they were not the masked booby. Masked boobies, they nest in northern islands, a little bit more around Cocos Islands, but these Nazca boobies, they nest in Galapagos and down south to Peru. That's why the name is the Nazca booby, because he flies around the Nazca tectonic plate. That picture that I'm showing right now is a fantastic picture of the flight of the waved albatross.
Fantastic. And so
yes.
when these groups of people come to the Galapagos, and they go hiking. They're going to go to Española. They're going to go to San Cristobal. They're going to go kayaking, and they might even get to see flamingos turning pink from eating the shrimp. There's going to be so many different creatures that they get to see. It's going to be so exciting. I cannot wait. But one of the animals I'm most excited to see are the sea turtles. And you had a very special experience here. This is not just your everyday sea turtle sighting. Tell us about this.
Oh yeah, that picture of the flamingo and the picture of the turtle right now that you're observing, it is in our visit to Floriana Island. Floriana Island, the first capital of the Galapagos archipelago, fantastic destination, has a brackish lagoon. Brackish lagoon is a lagoon formed by the mix of salt water and fresh water that produce a unique ecosystem where these tiny little shrimps called the Artemia salina can survive and can reproduce. And these tiny little shrimps, they have what is called beta-carotene. And this beta-carotene is a protein that makes them pink. The flamingos eating these shrimps, they add this beta-carotene into their bodies, and then they need to kind of eliminate the beta-carotene, and they do it through the feathers. And that's why the flamingos are turning pink. Less food, less pink, more food, more pink. It's just fantastic to see. The number of flamingos in Galapagos is not really large because the conditions are not kind of really unique for them, but the population is around 400. So to be able to see more or less 50 flamingos in one lagoon, that is a unique number. So flamingos, American flamingos are there, and we need to search for them. Galapagos Islands, it is the most important destination for the Pacific green sea turtle. Pacific green sea turtles are the only turtles that nest in Galapagos, and the rest of the turtles, like the rest of the turtles, they nest at night, and they lay the eggs during all of the night, and early in the morning, they go down to the beach from these dunes, and then they go to the ocean. That's why, if you want to really enjoy the Galapagos Islands, you need to get ready in some opportunities, especially in Floriana, to wake up early. Not too early. We disembark that moment at 6 a.m. and then we go straight to the beach to try to find these unique creatures disembarking, going all the way towards the ocean. And that was the case in that moment. Everybody was so happy, so crazy. Galapagos Islands is not one of those locations where you have thousands of turtles going into the ocean and coming to the ocean to lay the eggs, but to see them 1, 2, 3 is just fantastic. That occurs during this time of the year when the water gets warm. Reptiles, they need this warm condition to lay the eggs. So it's not rare to see during this experience baby turtles already swimming in the ocean. So those are kind of really unique experience that happens, especially in this island, Floriana Island.
Wow. Well, Andres, I don't know how we did it, but we made it to the top of the hour again. So I think we have a few more pictures, but maybe while I go through those, we should open it up to questions. Because I'm sure there are some people who have some questions while we have you here. So Kendall, if it's okay with you, we will open it up to questions. We only have 1 minute left until the top of the hour, but if there are any, we'll make sure we try to answer those.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got some good questions for you. And I just want to remind anyone who's watching, if you have questions for Andres or Annie, you can submit those in your control panel under the questions field. Okay, someone was wondering what island we fly into to start the trip.
Thank you very much for that question. Especially if you want to, that is the Floriana Island, the post office bar, and we're going to take you there to send a postcard to back home. If you come and you visit us in this kayak trip, you arrive to an island called Baltra. Baltra Island, it is just an airport, and it is the place where you get into the boat, Baltra Island. In Galapagos, you have 2 airports. If you choose another destination with us, and like another boat, we take you to, you landed in another island called San Cristobal, where there is another airport. So you have these options, One of them arriving to Bartra Island, where actually it is only an airport. And the second option, the second airport, it is in San Cristobal Island, where actually there's a little town, a little community. Those pictures that Annie is showing right now is part of our adventure. This is the visit to town and the visit to the Charles Darwin Research Station. Thank you very much for the question. I hope I clarified a little bit about that. If not, more than happy to answer other questions.
All right. So we've got a couple questions regarding time of year, so I'll combine them. Someone's wondering, of course, we get this all the time, when's the best time of year to visit? And more specifically, when is the best time to see turtles hatch and which island?
Very good. Well, once again, the best time to visit Galapagos could be, to be honest, the time when you are ready to take your vacations and you don't have any responsibilities at home and you're ready to enjoy all of this, because there's a lot of things related to energy in Galapagos. If you come and you relax, the best things are going to happen to you. In terms of time, the weather is more moderate, in my opinion, in the time around beginning of May, June, okay? Right now, imagine February is really nice, but could be a little bit too hot for our visitors that kind of have sensitive skin, because right now is our summer, a lot of heat, but we're supposed to be crowded right now because people love to come when the water is warm. If you enjoy the snorkeling during these months, February, March, April, the water is warm. If you visit us during the month of July and August, there's more life, but the water could be a little bit cool. Around, imagine, right now it's 77, 78 degrees Fahrenheit. During September, August could be 69, 70. That really makes a difference. Good news, we have a really good wetsuit for you, and I think that makes a big difference. Great, thank you for the question. Maybe another question?
Yeah, we've got a few more here.
In Bartolome Island.
So next question is, someone is wondering about what possible diseases the animals can get from humans.
Okay, there's no records of diseases that were passing, at least so far, no disease passing from humans to wildlife, especially because we are always concerned about the distance between humans and animals. But sadly, that can happen. We don't know, you know how it is, so unique, this fragile line between humans and wildlife. But one thing is for sure, the warmer gets the weather, there's more chance to pass any disease because of the hot weather to the wildlife. So far, there's no records, but I need to tell you that we have some introduced species that are affecting the wildlife. If that could be considered at that point. There's a fly called Philornis downside related to the South American housefly that is affecting some birds of the Galapagos Islands, laying eggs into the finch nest, and that is a big problem. Right now, the Galapagos National Park is controlling that. It's a whole process, and the idea is to find the biological control to that fly. So there's no important disease passing from humans or animals. There's no disease passing from humans to animals. That's a great question. But yes, there's still some introduced species, especially insects, that are affecting the endemic wildlife.
Okay. And someone is really curious about barcoding animals. How do they do this? Do they insert a chip, or is there some sort of cuff they put on them? Can you talk us through that?
Well, for that, my dear friend, we need to have another meeting in the future, because let me tell you that this is just the beginning of that. Right now, what we are doing, to tell you the truth, it is collecting information about all of the species that we know already, connecting and kind of passing these codes of genetic systems to the scientists. And right now we're having meetings about how to collect soil and how to collect leaves to be able to study them into the laboratory. So even for me, that I'm part of the team, and are going to be at the field, it is a mystery. So we're just receiving that information. Believe me, as soon as I know how we're going to do it, I'm going to let you know.
And I think it's important to note there, Kendall, that they're not barcoding the animal, they're barcoding the genetic information.
Exactly. We are kind of, but the idea is to have that information. That way we can actually understand the different adaptation of the species into the examples of the different individuals. So it's quite a really complex what they're doing. Tell you a little bit more about this. I will need a few more months to really understand all of this process.
So it gets into the sort of complex, genetic variations where you want to say, like, here's the genetic coding for this variation. Let's put a barcode that goes with that variation so that we can identify this one little specific detailed chain of information. So it's really down to the genetic information, not the individual animal, if that helps clear up that question.
Yeah. The idea is to understand if there is some introduced species or if there's any changes into the different endemic species. So it's really complex, really interesting, and quite difficult to, but we're gonna do it.
I mean,
Great.
it's such a huge project. There's 300 guides gathering information. Like, that's huge.
That's incredible. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, final question we'll take today since we're approaching 10 minutes past the hour. Someone was just curious how many of the islands Darwin actually visited.
That's a great question.
Yes, thank you very much for the question. Talking about Darwin can take you a lot of time. This is something that I will always recommend to read a little bit about Charles Darwin and all of some information about his voyage, because it's just fantastic. Well, Charles Darwin spent 5 weeks into the Galapagos Islands, and he visited 5 islands, no more than that. And during those 5 weeks, they explored different locations, and they were collecting different data. They landed in San Cristobal Island, and then they went to the island of Floriana, where they were meeting with the pioneers and actually the governor of Floriana Island during that time, a man called Henslow. And then from there, they were going to Santiago Island, James Island, where they were actually disembarking, and Charles Darwin spent 1 week camping in James Island. From there, they went Bartolome, they were sailing around the island of Genovesa, and then they were back home. The expedition of the Beagle, and that's a fantastic book by Charles Darwin, The Voyage of the Beagle, took them 5 years. And Charles Darwin and the expedition of the Beagle spent 5 weeks in Galapagos during the month of September. That's really important too, because September is a really dry month and there's not much flowers, it's a little bit cold, but there's a lot of activity in the ocean.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to call it there with questions. Annie and Andres, thank you so much for taking the time to present for us today. You brought back a lot of memories from my trip to Galapagos a few years ago. I had the best time. So thank you so much. I'm going to turn it back over to both of you for closing comments, and we'll start with Andres.
Okay, dear friends, thank you. Thank you very much to have a time to talk with us, to enjoy this moment. I hope we really attract your attention to this little corner of the world. Keep traveling, if not Galapagos, all the destinations with us. You're supporting all of this fantastic place. And yes, God bless you all. Please be safe. If you not have the vaccine, use the mask, use the antiseptic. Be careful, please. We need you. We need you safe and ready for action. And thank you very much.
All right. Well, Andres, thank you so much for joining me. It's always a pleasure. I cannot wait to visit you in the Galapagos. And for all of you who tuned in today, thank you so much for joining us. We absolutely love getting to present to you and share this incredible information about this place. Stay tuned because we're going to have more to share with you soon. And I'm sure there's going to be an incredible daily dose tomorrow. Kendall, thank you for all your help and support. We really appreciate it. Y'all take care. Bye.
Thanks again, Annie and Andres, and my thanks as well to everyone who tuned in today. Do join us tomorrow for our next Daily Dose of Nature. We did record today's presentation and we'll have the replay available on our website soon. And with that, I will conclude the webinar. Goodbye, everybody.